Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for joining in on this webinar. We will be going over the first funnel legislative webinar here, and I am Phil Jennery, the Government Relations Director for the Iowa Association of School Boards, and we wanted to put this webinar together to kind of give you an overview of all the legislation that has impacted IASB and our priorities up until the first funnel, which happened last week. There is also a question box where if any of you would like to submit a question during the webinar, go ahead and type that in, and then I will answer those as they come in. So just to give a brief overview of what the webinar we'll go over kind of what Funnel Week is, a quick review of our legislative priorities, and then I will go into all the bills that have or that would have impacted our priorities, and then lastly, I'll kind of give it an advocacy push. And as the Government Relations Director, I guess I probably wouldn't be doing my job if I did not take an opportunity to talk about advocacy. And I will go over specifically what advocacy is needed and what you can do today to make a difference. So many of you might know, but a lot of you might be asking, what exactly is Funnel Week? Well, Funnel Week is the legislature's self-imposed deadline for all bills. What that means is that bills must pass out of the Chamber of Origins Committee or the bill is no longer considered. So, for example, if a bill is introduced in the House, it must pass out of all of the House committees in order for it to remain alive. And conversely, that is the same in the Senate. So all Senate bills, all bills that were introduced into the Senate must pass out of the Senate committees in order to still be considered. One way to keep a bill alive is to assign it to either the Appropriations or Ways and Means Committee. And bills that are assigned to this committee can survive Funnel Week even if they have not been voted out of committee. So what that entails is usually a bill that has a monetary value placed on it. If it might not be able to pass out of a committee due to Funnel Week, and there's just not enough time to review it, they can request that it be sent to the Appropriations or Ways and Means Committee, and it can still be considered after Funnel Week, even though it had not been voted out of committee. And then finally, Funnel Week allows legislators the opportunity to focus on legislation that is more of a priority. They only have 100 days to get the work of the state done, so it really winnows their focus and places more of a priority on legislation. So as the time and the session winds down, they are focused on the pertinent issues. So jumping right in here are the review of our legislative priorities, and our legislative focus has been guided by the priorities voted and passed by school board members at the IASB Delegate Assembly in November of 2014. Delegates voted for 6 priorities out of 42 approved IASB resolutions to focus our efforts on at the Capitol. The core priorities are the Iowa Core, transportation, preschool access, AEA support, mental health funding, and finally everybody's favorite here, the supplemental state aid. And I would just refer you to our website, which is www.ia-sb.org, to find a copy of our beliefs, priorities, and resolutions, and that can be found on the Legislative Advocacy Center, which is at the right-hand side of the homepage. So jumping right in here to the legislative update, all of these bills dealt with the Iowa Core or assessment issue, and House File 446 dealt with the statewide assessment issue, and the bill states the intent of the legislature to address the issue of the statewide assessment during the 2015 legislative session. And IASB is registered in support of the bill because it would help student progress regarding the core academic indicators, and that bill has passed out of the House Education Committee. House File 582, the core content standards, this bill makes technical changes to clarify that Iowa has in place the Iowa Core Content Standards by removing the word common. It does not make any substantive changes to the underlying standards, but IASB is registered undecided on this bill, which passed out of the House Education Committee and is currently on the House debate calendar. And House File 271 and its counterpart Senate File 431, which deals with the core curriculum, the bill would add music, visual arts, drama, and theater to the core curriculum. This bill also requires that the Department of Education employs a consultant to oversee the development of the fine arts curriculum. IASB is registered opposed to this bill due to that unfunded mandate. All of the requirement would be solely placed on school districts to provide funding for that position, and that bill passed out of the Senate Education Committee, and it is on the Senate debate calendar. And Senate File 429 also deals with statewide assessment, and the bill states that the Smarter Balance Assessment will be administered to all students in grades 3 through 11 during the last quarter of the year. The bill was amended in committee to strike that assessment language and to eliminate the Department of Education's authority to determine the appropriate assessment to be administered. IASB will be opposed to this bill, and the bill passed out of the Senate Education Committee with the amendment and is on the Senate debate calendar. So just moving to a few bills that dealt with the core and assessments that did not survive funnel. House File 312, which was the use of only Iowa test, and the bill would have made it a requirement that all assessment tests be Iowa-based tests. The bill would not allow the Department of Education to pick an assessment that is aligned with the core in content and rigor. IASB was opposed to this bill, but as I said before, that it did not survive funnel. And then House Files 271, 272, 273, and Senate File 16 all dealt with anti-core standard bills, and it would have stripped all references to Common Core as it referred to the Iowa Core. And IASB was opposed to this bill, but it also did not survive funnel. And I would just also point out that all of our position statements on the Iowa Core and assessments can be found on in the publication section of the legislative advocacy page that is on our homepage there, which again is www.ia-sb.org. So moving along to the transportation priority, and the main bill for the transportation issue was Senate File 280, which was the PEPAL flexibility bill, and it would allow repairs to technology, transportation, or recreational equipment purchased using PEPAL funds. IASB is registered in support of the bill, which would give districts a more efficient way to use taxpayer dollars. So for an example, it would allow replacement of an engine rather than buying a whole brand new school bus. And this bill actually passed unanimously in the Senate. And just to mention here, against a few transportation bills that did not survive funnel, House Files 84, House Files 250, House File 342, House File 431, and 432, which all dealt with transportation inequity. And IASB supported all of these bills because each of these bills highlighted the need for the legislature to address the transportation inequity, but those bills did not survive funnel. And I would just want to add real quick that every transportation bill that came up before the legislatures this year did not survive funnel. There was a concerted effort to get something done, but the House Education Chair was not going to pass a transportation bill that did not first address tax inequity issues. And I just wanted to let you know that because that's probably something that a lot of you would not know, and due to the close relationships that IASB has in the Capitol, we were able to bring you that information. And then I would just refer you to our transportation funding toolkit, which is located on the homepage under the Legislative Advocacy Center. If you go there and click on the transportation toolkit, you can go ahead and select your school district, and it has analysis from our finance directors, and it would show you kind of how your school would do if those bills had passed. So it's a pretty neat tool, and I would just urge you to step out to our website and check those out. So looks like we got a question here, just asking if our webinar will be posted online, and it will be. Once we get it done, we will convert it and put it on IASB's website. So if you join late or just want to hear something again, the webinar will be online for everybody. Okay, so next we will talk about the preschool access. And the first bill that we'll discuss is House File 156, which is the preschool flexibility. And this bill is a repeat of a bill that passed the House unanimously last year, but unfortunately did not get signed by the governor. And it would provide additional flexibility to school districts and preschool partners in the use of preschool funds. The flexibility includes adding the ability to transport preschoolers and use preschool funds on infrastructure. IASB is registered in support of this bill because it gives school districts the control to use their own funds. And this bill passed the House and is in the Senate Education Committee. Senate File 246, which is the preschool expansion bill, and it would create incentive payments for districts to expand the number of children in the state-sponsored preschool program. It also provides additional flexibility to districts to utilize preschool funds for transportation, and increases the amount of funds for administrative expenses to about 10%. The bill makes outreach activities and rent eligible expenditures. IASB is registered in support of the bill, which has passed the Senate Education Committee and what was referred to the Senate Appropriations Committee. And then Senate File 295, the ELL weighting in preschool. The bill deals with providing additional weighting for eligible students identified as limited English proficient who are enrolled in statewide preschool programs for 4-year-old children. The Senate file was amended to make weighting 1/2 of English language learners weighted enrollment, and IASB is registered in support of the bill because it provides more money for students that require additional instructional needs. The bill passed out of the Senate Education Committee and is currently on the Senate debate calendar. So just a couple preschool bills that did not survive funnel. House File 270, which was waiting for ELL preschool students. IASB was in support, but like I said, it did not survive funnel. And then also House File 207, which increased the minimum hours for preschool. And IASB was monitoring that legislation to see how it would eventually be written in its final version, but again, it did not survive funnel. So moving on to the support for AEAs and mental health funding. Senate File 430, which was an AEA mental health pilot bill, and that piece of legislation would authorize $2.5 million for pilot projects in each AEA to provide mental health services to school districts. IASB is registered in support of the bill, which passed out of the Senate Education Committee and was referred to the Senate Appropriations Committee. And then House File 490 and its counterpart, Senate File 345, the anti-bullying bill. Probably most of you know the governor's bullying bill, or the governor's anti-bullying bill, excuse me. But this bill attempts to strengthen efforts to combat bullying and harassment in schools. It would ensure each school district would be provided adequate training on conducting investigations and would establish a student mentoring pilot program in 2 middle schools and 2 high schools to explore how student leadership can prevent bullying. The bill also provides school officials with authority to investigate and impose school discipline or take action in cases of alleged incidents of harassment or bullying that occur outside of school, off school grounds, or away from school-sponsored events. And IASB is registered in support of the bill, which had passed out of the House Education Committee and is currently on the debate calendar. So going along here, we'll wrap up our priorities here with the supplemental state aid issue, and Senate File 171 and 172. These are the Senate versions of the supplemental state aid bills, and the House versions of IASB was opposed to, but the Senate File 171 and 172 IASB was in support of because the Senate had passed a 4% increase in the supplemental state aid. And then Senate File 173, which is the property tax replacement bill, and basically that bill extends the property tax relief provision that increases the state aid commitment by replacing property tax dollars with state dollars through fiscal year 2017. This does not provide any additional resources for school district budgets. It's just a different source of funds. So legislators will say, well, you know, we're providing all of this money for schools, and while that's technically true, a lot of the money that they're sending is going for property tax replacement and not money going to school districts' budgets to help out the students. So while that is technically true, the state is upping their monetary commitment to schools, but a lot of that money is going for property tax replacement. And IASB was registered against this bill, but that bill was signed into law by the governor on March 5th. And I would just say that that a lot of that the supplemental state aid issue right now is currently in the conference committee, and that has been assigned to come to an agreement on the supplemental state aid issue. The governor, along with the House, has supported a 1.25% increase, while the Senate supports a 4% increase. And the members of this committee from the House are Speaker Craig Paulson, Majority Leader Linda Upmeyer, Appropriations Chair Chuck Soderberg, Education Committee Ranking Member Patty Ruff, and Representative Sharon Steckman. The members of this committee from the Senate are Majority Leader Mike Gronstall, Minority Leader Bill Dix, Education Chair Herman Kornbach, Senator Todd Bowman, and Senator Amy Sinclair. And so the conference committee met a couple times here in the last couple weeks, and really no significant progress has been made. And really, kind of what we're hearing up on the Capitol is that all signs point, to really nothing being done until after the Revenue Estimating Conference. The REC meets on March 19th, and they'll go ahead and take a look at the receipts from the state, and they'll make their projections on revenues. They met earlier, they met late last year in December, and then they come back to look at the numbers again in March. And if those numbers go down, then that would probably give more weight to the governor and the House with the 1.25%. So, we're, like I said, we're just waiting for the REC to meet, and after that, I would assume that then the Commerce Committee would be able to really start moving and setting the supplemental state aid rate. So moving on here, the toolkit here for the supplemental aid is a pretty neat thing here that our finance directors have put together, and I'll just kind of show here, what all that entails. And here, if you go out to our to the website, and you go on the right-hand side under the Legislative Advocacy Center and click on the Supplemental State Aid Toolkit, you will be linked to here. And the neat thing about this is on the two highlighted yellow sections here, you can see that here is a 1.25%, and while we were advocating for 6%, you can go ahead and change it to the Senate's number of 4%. You just go click that, and then it automatically changes the numbers down here. So you can go ahead and kind of scroll through this and see here that at a 1.25% rate for supplemental state aid, you can see that about 19, little under 20% of districts would be able to cover an increase of costs of over 3%. So why we picked the 3% number, our finance directors went back and looked through probably the last 4 or 5 years, and the average salary and benefit increases over that time span had been about 3%. I think actually might have been about 3.6%. But you can go ahead and take a look and see at 3% only about 20% of school districts would be able to cover that increase at a 1.25%. Whereas if the state aid rate was 4%, you could see that over half, 56%, would be able to cover an increase of 3%. If you go down here to the next box, you can see again just only about 21% of school districts would actually see new money after increases of salary and benefits had taken place. So again, only about 20% of school districts would actually receive new money after salary and benefits had been taken into consideration. Whereas as 4%, you can see here that 60% of school districts would actually have new money. And then the last box here just deals with the number of, or excuse me, the percentage of school districts that would be on the budget guarantee. At 1.25%, you can see here that almost half, 48% of the school districts would be on the budget guarantee. We're here at 4%, only 17%. So then you can go, if you go back up, you can click on this Districts Impact tab, and it shows every single school district in the state and compares it 1.25 versus 4%. And it has the new money at 1.25%, what it is after salary and benefit, and then if they would be on a budget guarantee, and then how much the estimated property tax rate for the budget guarantee would be. And you can return here to the Return to Driver tab, and then one of the really neat parts of this tool, and it really helps out when you're talking with your legislator, is if you click on the House District, and you can go ahead and click here and then click on your own House member or members if your school district has more than one, and then it'll pop up here all the school districts that they represent, and then it will show again what a comparison of what a 1.25% increase in supplemental state aid would mean versus a 4%. And then also in the Senate, your state senators as well, you can go ahead and click on here and click whichever senator is yours, and then it will show, again, all the school districts that they represent and what that means. So we have had a number of legislators really find this useful to where they have even used these numbers on the debate floor while they were talking about supplemental state aid. So it's really a pretty neat tool. And then finally here, just the some of the advocacy that our members have done. A number of school board members have written letters to the editor, and a number of them have gotten published. And then also a few school districts have actually done a day on the Hill down here in Des Moines. And a couple of them created their own handouts and spoke with a number of key influencers on the supplemental state aid issue. And like I said, during the supplemental state aid debate, those handouts were used during debate, and a couple of the school districts actually got to speak to a House Education Subcommittee, and one of them even got to speak with the governor, which was a really neat thing that some of the other school districts have not been able to do. So they were able to speak one-on-one with the governor, and to really let him know, this is what 1.25% means. And a lot of their handouts, you see when you're, perhaps buying a cable package, at the bronze level you get this, and then at the silver level you get all that, all the bronze features plus a few more, and then here's the gold plan, and you get all that plus these extra things. So that really made a pretty big impact, I thought, on a number of legislators to see this is what we're talking about. It's not just we're asking for more money. This is real things. I mean, these are real tangible things that could potentially be cut with a low supplemental state aid rate. So kind of wrapping up the legislative update part, just some other important legislation that we thought from the House side, House File 74 and House File 118, which dealt with the SAVE funding. And these bills would extend the sunset date on the state penny for school infrastructure through 2040, and IASB is registered in support of both of those bills, which are before the House Ways and Means Committee. And it's just a good funding source for schools. House File 515, the use of district management levy. The bill authorizes a school district to use revenue from the district management levy to pay for costs of mediation and arbitration, such as the legal fees dealing with that. And IASB is registered in support of the bill, which passed out of the House Education Committee and was referred to the House Ways and Means Committee. And then finally, House Study Bill 206, the liabilities during reorganization, and the bill would ensure that liabilities incurred by school districts with issuance of SAVE bonds are considered during a reorganization or a dissolution process. IASB is registered in support of the bill, which passed the House Education Committee and is on the House debate calendar. So looks like we got a couple questions in. One is dealing with transportation, and I'm going to get to that here about how a transportation bill could get done even though they did not pass as a standalone bills. And then the other question is just asking, is it sort of a foregone conclusion that the REC is going to lower their estimates? It isn't. There are three people that make up the revenue estimating conference, and they take a look at the receipts from the state, and then they base their projections on that. So, I unfortunately can't really give you a yes or no answer there, but it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that they're going to lower the estimates there. And then just other legislation in the Senate, Senate File 245, the weighting for ELL, and the bill increases the English language learning weighting to 0.3 per student, and it extends the time period by which a student may qualify to receive that weighting to 7 years. IASB is registered in support of the bill, which passed the Senate Education Committee and was referred to the Senate Appropriations Committee. And one of the big differences between this bill and then Senate File 295, which both dealt with weighting for ELL, but Senate File 245 addresses all other students, and not just preschool. But again, this bill gives more money for students who require additional instructional needs. And then Senate File 409, extending the period of time for sales tax deposit and save. And currently, the House bills are still being considered because they're in the Ways and Means Committee, but the Ways and Means chair is actually a vocal opponent of save. They actually voted against the original legislation, so they're really not inclined to move the SAVE bills. but IASB is in favor of this legislation. So getting back to the transportation issue, I just want to address that. While the bills itself, as standalone bills, did not survive funnel, one way that they can still be considered is that they could be attached as an amendment to an already existing bill. So that's another way that a bill, while as a standalone bill, it did not survive funnel. If a legislator or a number of legislators would like to see something done, which there has been a pretty big concerted effort to get something done regarding transportation, a number of legislators could take one of those bills and attach it as an amendment to an already surviving bill, so to speak, and if that all gets passed, then it could become then it could become law. So that is another way that a bill, while it might not have passed committee as a standalone bill, it could be attached as an amendment and still pass. And just recently, we had gotten a question about the calendar start date issue, and I just before starting this, our lobbyist, Emily Piper, had contacted me about the start date issue. So this is just hot off the presses here. But yesterday, the Senate voted and passed for a full repeal of the start date. And it was a 32 to 17 vote, I believe, but there was a House version with a full repeal going on in the House, and there is a procedural way to reconcile those without having to go through the committee process again. And basically, what that entails is that the House they must first bring up the House bill and do a conforming amendment to make it identical to the Senate bill. So in essence, there would be a strike and replace of the language with the full repeal language. Then they could substitute it in the Senate file. The House would amend it and then vote on it and then send it back to the Senate. So that's a way that they can get a full repeal done in the House without going through the committee process. Of course, they could go through the committee process, but that would be that would depend on the speaker's decision there. But that is floating around up there at the Capitol now to just kind of change out that language and put it in the House bill, amend it with the Senate language, pass it, and then send it back to the Senate for confirmation there. So finally here, wrapping it all up, I know it's been quite a bit of information thrown at you, but what you can do now, and basically it's contacts, contacts, and contacts. And did I mention contacts? I don't know, but one of the ways, if you are not quite sure of your legislators, because every few years they, every 10 years they reapportion, and then some representatives or senators that have been your representative for a number of years, and now they're not. If you go to our legislative advocacy center on the website, we have a legislator lookup tool, and you can search by your school district, and it'll show all the senators and representatives that represent your school district, and reach out to them. Make a phone call, make an email, find out where their legislative forums are, and that is something that we also post on our website. It is every week they have their legislative coffees or forums, and we post that updated list on our website, and then we also link that on our advocacy in action newsletter that goes out every Thursday. So I would do that, and reach out to the community. Reach out to local businesses, to local groups, engage your SIAC groups. I mean, those are people that have stood up, that are willing to help out. And a lot of it happens with you. I mean, we're hearing that legislators are starting to lose the pressure to get supplemental state aid done. We're hearing that a lot of legislators don't want to come up from 1.25, and then we're also hearing that a number of legislators are having, second thoughts about holding the line at 4%. I realize that this has been a long fight, and every year it's it's sort of the same thing, and you get tired, and well, I already made a phone call or an email, so I did my part. What we're asking is saying, make that one extra call. Get one of your colleagues or friends or neighbors to do the same. Now is not the time to stop. Now is the time to make that one extra contact, that extra email. This is the time because, right at the beginning of session there was, the contacts were at an all-time high. Get the supplemental state aid done, and those legislators felt pressure. Now, as it's drug on through the session, the number of contacts are starting to drop, and because people are like, oh, here we go again. They're just stalling, and and they get frustrated. Everyone gets frustrated, and that's exactly what they're hoping for, is that you're going to stop caring, and then they don't have any pressure on them. So, now is exactly the time that we need to be upping and reapplying the pressure there. So I would say that if you need any help, we are here to help. Please contact me. My email is on the slide, as well as my phone number. And if any of you attended our district meetings throughout the state, you'll probably remember Lisa or Galen saying, if you feel down and you need that extra boost, call Phil. If you need, you're stuck, you want to do something but you're not quite sure on what to do, call Phil. So please call me, and I will be more than happy to help you out there. I would just like to thank everybody for joining in on the webinar. Again, we will be posting it on our website. So if you join late or just would like to hear something again a couple times, you missed it, you were doing something else, and you kind of caught the tail end of what I was saying, we'll have a link on our website where you can go back and listen to it.